Welcome everyone to the Divine Feminine Ascension Council. I'm here with my beautiful soul sisters and soul brother, Wendy, Eartha, and John. And we're coming to you today again from the Inner Vibers Club
Woo-woo.
on Clubhouse.
Join.
Yay! So come and check us out. And we're here today because we want to talk about how to connect clearer with your higher self. And this is especially interesting because we had this beautiful portal open all through the February, and it's closing today, or at least it will be starting to
Right.
close.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys can tell me more about this. And what I can say is that the energies in the last couple of days were really intense, and I think everyone can agree.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of emotions that have been pushed through the surface, and they're really wanting to be seen. And what that means is that actually allows for our body to release old trauma, old emotions that have been trapped in the body, right? So by releasing that, we are already making more space for a clearer higher self connection, because what we want is we want to bring in more of our beautiful self, of the higher self, into our body. We don't want to exit our body and be all floating around and be like, oh, now I'm connected to my higher self, right? We want to bring in the higher self into this body. We want to ground the higher
Yes.
self
We have the bodies
into
for a
this
reason.
embodiment, into this version. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing here. Yeah. So the portal, like I think I've said before, it's like I never really, oddly, usually I'm tuning into all of these things. I never really tuned into what exactly it's bringing in. I think I think one of the reasons for that is I do feel like you said, definitely emotional, bringing deep, really, really like the old stuff, right? The oldest stuff is being dredged up right now. And I think that's manifesting different for everybody. So I think that's why I was like, well, I don't really feel
Yeah.
like a specific energy coming in except for just a more expansive and deeper dredging up of the older stuff more than ever, which is what, like you said, this is what this is all about,
Yeah.
is moving this stuff out of the way so that we can embody more light. But yeah, and so and the significance, like let's talk about the significance of the number two. Like we're in this amazing year, which is a 6 year, because it's, if you don't know, 2022 246, so it makes it a 6 year. Six for me comes through as not only family, like kind of, I don't want to say establishing, reestablishing family connections. Now that does not necessarily mean biological family. For a lot of people, the 6 could mean finally letting go of biological family and finding the soul family. But it also comes through as, and last night I kind of had an epiphany. Like I've been saying, 6 has always been coming through as letting go, letting the old die. And I got a message last night that was like, but it's not letting go anymore. It is dying. We really don't even have a choice anymore. So whether we can let go or not, the old is dying. And so that is what's happening big this
Yeah.
year, for sure, all year.
Yeah. And that even, it connects to the emotional releases, because for me, this emotional release is actually happening on a soul level. So it goes on a cellular level, right?
Yeah,
That's what I wanted to say, cellular level. So we're going really, really deep. And it relates to that, what you just said about the death, also the death of, relationships. It sounds a little harsh. However, it's not something that we can bring with us. And it's the same with those emotions. They're connected to those people that we're letting go, right? In a lot of times, they're connected to the things that we're releasing on the outside. Because if we're releasing certain emotions, certain programs from our cellular structure, then we are not going to be able to
right.
exist in the reality anymore that was connected to these
Yep.
programs. So that's when this letting go of the structures that you were saying, Wendy, right,
Yeah.
comes in.
Right.
Could be family, could be friend, could be your home, could
Yeah. It's
be
very
your job, could be
foundationally
many
based.
different
Like it's,
things.
it's the
Yeah,
things that anchor us into this life
yeah,
that are being reorganized. And yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And that comes with, I always think of what's her name, Kali, the goddess of, she's the goddess of destruction and creation. And, you have to think
Mm,
of that, how can she be
yeah,
both? Well, that's because creation in a space requires destruction of what's been there, right? And it cannot exist there.
yeah. And
Yeah.
when you have the ashes, like you burn something down, always like she always
Yes.
reminds me of fire as well, right? When you burn something down, the ashes are very fertile and something new can use this as a
Absolutely. Yeah. Like
nurturing
forest
ground,
fires, they say as horrible and
right?
devastating as they can be in the moment, they actually are really good for the soil, right? They're really
Mm,
good for the forest in the long run, especially a dying forest. It's like the best thing that could happen almost. So, yeah, yeah, it's a renewal,
yeah,
a fire like the phoenix.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And all of this is actually a sign that the connection to your higher self
Absolutely.
is increasing.
That's like the byproduct.
When you're experiencing those emotional exactly, and emotional purging, right? And being able to really release without being able to attach to the emotion. We always say, let it flow and don't attach, because it may be very well old stuff, very old stuff coming up that is
Right.
not
It's
even
just been
triggered in the
buried.
moment,
Yeah.
but that is safe, like exactly your body has cellular memory, and in every cell there's certain information stored, and when light comes in, trauma gets
Yeah.
released in
Yep.
the cellular
So the
structure,
light is coming into
right?
and pushes it out. And so if you're
So
feeling kind of overwhelmed by the emotions, just sit in that. Don't resist it. Just allow yourself to sit in it and to really feel it without reattaching to the what caused it in the first place, right? Like we don't need to relive the trauma, but we do need to embrace the
yeah,
emotions because that's how you release them. But the reason that they've been buried so deep is because they would come up and we'd go, nope, nope, not today. I got to do stuff, right? Like it's never a convenient time. And so now we're not being
yeah,
given that luxury anymore of, oh, I can wait until I'm alone. Nope, you might be in the middle of the grocery
yeah,
store and you just lose it. So you just have to allow, because that's where we're at right now, and we're all feeling that sometimes it just
yeah.
overwhelms you.
And you would be a
Right.
beautiful role model if you did, right? Because
Yeah.
people are really good at suppressing their emotions. And if you would allow yourself out in public to show these emotions, you would actually validate the
Yep.
experience for someone else as well, and allow them to step into
Yep.
this beautiful role of release. And I think it would be really interesting, if
We want
you,
the
John, could give us a little perspective
man's
as
view.
well,
Yeah.
because we know that exactly for men it has been more stigmatized and judged to go into open emotional expression. Maybe tell us how you're experiencing this emotional topics and emotional releases.
Yeah, sure. Well, it's interesting because over the past, you know,
Hmm.
again, it's all linked to COVID. For the whole journey's kind of intermingled with that, and the experiences that I've had, well, prior to that, leading up to that, and also now um, in this current state. Just it's once you start doing it, once you start to take that step towards freedom in essence, then it gets easier and easier come up. But they're a lot easier to deal with now because it's just practice. It's practice makes perfect. The more that I'm now in the
Exactly.
habit of um, recognizing things as they come up rather than
Mm,
reacting against them. And there's it's taken blood, sweat, and a lot of tears to get there. But now I'm at this point, I'm a lot calmer and a lot freer than I've ever been because nothing can hold me back in essence.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's really just taking that step, and and it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. It's
Mm.
just understanding that when something comes up, it's your thing to deal with. If you're feeling a certain way, then it's you. You're like, if you're upset about something, there's a lot of people that blame others for their problems or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're upset about something, it means there's something that's coming up for you. I mean, beyond obvious kind of first reaction anger, because anger by itself is a natural reaction, but it's when there's loads of stuff underneath it that is then kind of bubbling away that you don't really notice. And
Right. Yeah.
yes, it's just the growth and realizing that you can develop, cultivate, preserve, and repair relationships with yourself and with others just through realizing that there's something coming up where the initial, because men kind of default to anger, and that's completely, instinctually, that's a natural reaction. So you tend to think that's a natural reaction anyway. But then if you start to actually look what's beyond that, then you start to realize, okay, so I've got other stuff going on here as well. So which people aren't told. People don't think like that. They just kind of like, default to whatever emotion they're going to default without doing any further investigation. So
Yeah. And they
that's
sit in
kind of
that.
where I'm coming from.
And they sit in that.
Huh? Yeah, they sit in that. Yeah.
They get stuck in that energy of, well, so and so did this to me, that's why I'm upset, and they don't get
Yeah.
past that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I think we're being forced to kind of see, past it now, and they're like, oh, like, man,
Mhm.
this is like people I never would have expected, right? Are like now saying things like, well, I realized that this was my, that because this happened 20 years ago, that's why I overreacted. And that's not what, another thing I wanted to say too is we probably are seeing a lot of people. I feel like I know I am seeing a lot of people, what we used to perceive as overreacting to situations, when really it's just that emotion coming up. And if something happens that upsets you, it's going to have a thread connected to anything that has anything to do with what just happened, right? From your whole experience. And so it's all connected now, and you can't we can't deny it anymore. So it's super important. And the whole two thing too, two, whenever I pull a two, like in a card reading or whatever, or twos come through in, with a client, it always is, it can be, self-love. A lot of times it comes through as self-love. Sometimes it does come through as, divine love, divine companionship, divine partnership. And so when you think of it that way too, we're both, I do feel like, we've talked about this a lot. Women are divine feminine, are leading the way on this ascension. And I know John agrees with that. And but there are so many of these beautiful men who are in their divine feminine, right? And also, right along with us. Like it's not like it's all women, right? It's just it's a divine feminine energy that is leading the way. And so when you think of the twos, it's such an incredible day today with the twos, that if you think of it in terms as how we relate to each other, the feminine and the masculine, not just within, obviously within, as within, so without. But I do, and that's why it's such a huge relationship energy, right? Because, because that's what it's bringing forth, is this connection between the masculine and feminine, within and without. And so it's forcing us to look at these relationships we have with the opposite sex, with the, the other energy. And it's kind of, in a way, and this may be a harsh way to say it, but in a way, it's like making it or breaking it. Like it's either making you see this is not working. It's a finality, kind of, is what I'm feeling. And so it's either making you see, no, this is not working, or I want this to work. And so it's getting easier, maybe. So it's
I've been seeing the energy of the two, especially today, but just like even the days leading up to this, is like a rewriting. Like we're being offered in the whole energetic collective of humans, we're being offered like a rewriting of what our emotional responses are to everything that we have perhaps had experiences with in the past, or even in like past lives, or just like the energy of our frequency, of our own individual frequency, right? And so for that can be like personal relationships where, you know, you're kind of, you feel like, oh my God, I'm starting over, or doesn't this feel like I just did this, or you know, if there's a lot of energy that's around, like, oh my God, I've done this before, you know, but it's different now, or I'm going to make this different. And we see that like globally through the United States, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Like that is the oldest war story in the book for some of us. Like I remember being a child and being like, we're going to war with
Russia. Yes.
USSR.
Yep.
Like it was
Mm.
always the United
And the
States
Soviet
and
Union.
Russia.
Yep.
We're going to go to war. Yeah. And here we are, you know? So it's like, it's so interesting, like the way that we all, it's, you know, it's easy to get caught in, I'm alone and this is my own emotions, and you know, I have to deal with this, or I have to not deal with it, I can push it aside, or I can't push it aside. But it's I think it's handy to remember that it's like, not only are we not alone in the sense of we have other humans that we're interacting with, like our family, but we're also not just this body. We are the earth's energy. And, you know, and that energy is changing. And so we consequently change ourselves, and we're rapidly changing now.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the energy from February has been like preparing us, like, here we go.
Right.
Like we're moving into this energy. So yeah, so welcome to the chaos, because it's going to continue and it's going to get rough.
There's that saying in the military.
So or not rough.
Well, it's going to get intense.
Remember, it's just a good reminder, like, remember who you are. Remember that we're all here. We're all collectively here.
Yes, and it's why we've been,
love is,
it's why we've all been called to just find our center, find our center, find our center. Stay out of the mucks, you know, don't get pulled into the low vibe stuff, and just keep finding your center, because honestly, that's where we all meet, is in that void space on the higher plane, you know, outside of being these flawed humans, you know, that's where we gather and really create, is in this void space. So that's perfect. Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what, and you know, we're getting ready to gear up, you know, because I'm seeing into coming up to the spring equinox, we're really going to get amped up in a positive way for a lot of us. Those of us who are ready to go with our missions are really going to be moving fast. And so it is going to be intense, but I think a lot of us are going to see it as finally, like it's going to, thank you. Like it's going to be a release of all this energy that we've been, you know, I always think of the cartoons where they have the people trying to run and they're spinning their, you know, it's like spinning wheels, and they can't get going. That's where we've been. And I'm like, I'm so ready to move. And so I see that coming. And yes, preparation. It's just, they've given us everything we need. Gaia has given us everything we need. We just have to tap into it and keep tapping into it. Keep tapping into it until we live there. So, and I don't know, we might not perfect that right in this lifetime. I mean, probably not. Well, you know, once we perfect that, we don't need the physical body. So it's a process, but like John was saying, it gets easier because we just get better at it. And we start to realize it's not going to kill us, right? That's one thing I want to say too, is that, you know, a lot of people are so afraid of that emotional stuff coming up because they don't think they can survive it. They really do think it will end them. And, you know, having gone through so many of those that I thought were going to end me, and I'm still here. So you start to realize, okay.
It does not end you. It only makes you stronger.
And even if it did, right, it's not going to end you. It's just going to end this physical existence. And you can go do whatever the hell you want. We have free will in every plane of existence. So, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And, you know, up until those beautiful energies in March, we're still individually and collectively, we are revisiting old things, which gives us the beautiful opportunity to do it differently this time. And that's where you mentioned Eartha, right? You mentioned like Russia and the Ukraine and all that. Well, it's an old story, right? It's an old story that now we're revisiting in a different level. It's bringing us back in a circle around. Oh, well, look at this topic again. It hasn't come to a conclusion. So how are you going to choose to react now, right? So there's
Yeah.
still this collective and individual stuff coming up, so that we have the chance to make a
Yeah.
different choice, right? We
And
have
it's
the
the war
chance to
energy, right? It's the
experience a little bit of the
right.
remnant
And it's the
energy.
us versus them energy that
Yeah.
we're trying to shed. Yep.
It's the us versus them,
Absolutely.
right?
And if you
Exactly.
feel into that energy, what I
You
think
know,
is interesting and
exactly.
really, really positive is feeling into that energy of this whole thing going on with the Ukraine. And I'm not trying to diminish it in any way. We know those souls chose to be there and whatever happens, happens. But if you feel into it, it's like normally, you would feel like, let's talk about, 9/11 or whatever, when all that was happening, there was a huge surge of what we called patriotism, right? Everybody came together. Everybody was supporting annihilating the enemy, right?
Right.
That was the energy, and not everybody, right? But overall, the country's energy was that. And now, if you tune into this Ukraine thing, it's like there's just not a lot of energy behind it at all, positive or negative. It's like they're playing it out on that level, the world leader level. But the normal people like us,
Mm-hmm.
right, we're just like
Yeah.
not even engaged in any way with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's more of an ultimate
Yeah.
observer energy, like the way that,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe that, I don't know, like I'm glad you said that, because it kind of makes me feel like I wasn't sure if
Yeah,
that was
no, I
just
feel it
me or
too.
if it was, but it must be all of us, like, yeah, like we're kind of like, well,
Right?
this
Like
is
let's
happening, like
watch
here
them
it
play it
is,
out.
it's
Yeah.
going on, but I don't, right, yeah, it's like, okay, well, let's
Yeah.
work through this too, here's another lesson. And I think that, yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of us are at that level to where we can understand the greater,
Yeah.
stage, I guess,
Right. And I feel
that
like for the
everything is
most part,
playing on.
a lot
So,
of
yeah.
probably light workers in general would have
So
normally had a very emotional response
it's more
to
of
something
a,
like that because we don't, yeah.
right. Yeah. Instead of it being
It's
super
more, oh, this
emotional,
is
it's
happening
more,
over here.
yeah. Yeah. It's more
Yeah,
even keeled, and it's more like, let's send, right. Or let's send love to these people.
absolutely.
There's
And we
two
never
sides to
do
every
it all,
story.
right?
There's, I've heard a lot of that too. Whereas like before, yeah, Russia was in growing up in the United States,
Oh, they were the
Russia was
bad
the
guys. Yeah.
other. They were the evil. They were the this, they were so terrible. Yeah. Like, I mean, I grew up, knowing
Yeah.
all this
Yep.
propaganda from
We
the
were
Cold
terrified.
War
We
and
had to
everything.
duck
And it
and
was
cover.
like, now it feels so, it's like, oh, what is this for, what is he thinking, even to ask, what is Putin thinking,
Yeah,
what, he's a
exactly.
person, he has
Exactly.
thoughts,
It's like when you're a
like,
kid and you don't,
it's like,
yeah,
let's
you
think
don't think of
about
your
all of
parents
the
as
reasons.
people. And
Yeah,
now we're
yeah,
like,
it's like,
oh,
yeah,
now
it's
we're
like,
seeing the world leaders as they're humans. They're human beings.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
and they all have a
Yep.
role to play in the energetic
Yep. No matter what our opinions
acceleration
of
of
them
Earth.
are, right?
Yeah,
Or what they've done even.
so,
My thing too is I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I'm I happen to be writing a book and it's kind of come up as a big theme for the book is that it's not, everyone is redeemable in this life. There is no soul that cannot be redeemed. It's never too late to, and a lot of people will say, and I don't know, this might, not to get political, but for a second, I wanted to say, like Putin, a lot of people in that I know, that I trust, that I have been kind of following and with for years, say that he actually is a good guy. He's just been playing the game for so long. It's like he lost himself for a while. And so now he's working on trying to shift that. And I'm like, God, I hope so. Like, I don't know if I'm seeing it, but we hope so. But at the same time, I still just feel
I
like I'm
think I
observing
can
it all.
I think I could say that about a lot of us.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what's been happening to a lot of us, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
We got
we're
lost
getting
and we're
more.
trying to,
Yeah. And when you
yeah.
have the power that they have, man, I mean, yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason the power is in these people's hands right now. And
Mhm.
maybe it won't be, and what does that mean, right? Like the power, like we said, nobody really, and I don't want to say it, nobody really cares what's going on, but nobody really feels directly attached to what's going on. Many people.
I
Yeah,
feel like
and
we just feel like
you
we're
know,
ready. right? We're
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
like let's go. Whatever happens,
Yes.
we have to deal with it. We're not going to
And you
die.
know
We
what?
know we're not going to die. You can't kill us.
Exactly. And it's not that I
We've
want
already
to,
done
and
it.
it's not that I want to hear exactly so many times, even in this life, right? How many times have you died in
Right.
this life and come back? Like the Phoenix energy is huge for us. But, you know, it's not that I want to hear on the news that, you know, oh, a bunch of, you know, oh, they bombed a school by accident, that kind of stuff. It's like, we know now, like you were saying, Eartha, they don't tell us the whole story and they lie
Mm-hmm.
to us. That is a
Mm-hmm.
fact. Okay. That's not an opinion. The news media is part of the old energy and
Mm-hmm.
they have an agenda, just like everything did, to keep us in a certain place. And so not everybody in it, right? Like with everything, there are good people and bad people with every group of people. I think even in the cabal, you know, they say that there are infiltrators and, you know, we can't discount
We
an entire
cannot
group.
exist in the third dimension without the opposite
Yes,
of whatever we desire.
exactly. And we
So
and we
there has
created that.
to be a polarity.
Yep,
Yes.
because that's what we
Yeah.
wanted. That's what we wanted to
Yeah.
experience.
Yep.
So yeah, and maybe
So here we
here we
are.
are. Congratulations, you made it this far. Don't give up because
Yay.
we really are coming to. Gosh, I have to believe. Well, I do see it, and I always talk myself out of it because I'm like, oh, you're just saying that because you're so fucking tired, right? But I do believe we're coming to a place where we're going to start reaping the rewards of all this work we've done and all this suffering we've been through. It's like we're coming to a place. I promise. Anybody listening, it's like I know that this month, especially, well, this year since the beginning of 2022, it's been really hard to find reasons to stay. Believe me, I know. And you know and it's because we're almost there. And you know, there's really no, you know, we say that there's no destination, right? The destination is rejoining source in a billion quadrillion years. But you know, as far as letting go of this huge, heavy energy that has been holding on to us for so long and we've been holding on to, we're almost done with it. And then we get to build, we get to create.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be all, you know, unicorns and rainbows, but
Yeah, and you know,
it's going to be so much better.
and as we're embodying more of our higher self, which is happening automatically if we're not resisting it, right?
Right.
It's we have so much help that it's a process. If we go with the flow, we cannot miss it. And as we're embodying more of our higher selves, we'll also understand what we want to be involved in or what not. So what's our fight or what not. So that's why we're kind of having a more neutral or observant energy towards, let's say, the war energies, because we know that we have played our part with this, so we're
Yep.
done with it. So we're having a clearer picture of, is this something that where I still want to play in this energy or not? So it makes it easier for us not to go into this energy,
Absolutely.
right?
Right.
And that's such
Because
Yeah.
a
we have this
relief.
clarity in the
Yeah.
path.
And it's so refreshing. It's a nice thing to
Yeah.
feel that we don't have to be part of that. And I definitely feel
Yeah.
that.
If it's not our own story anymore, and if it is, we will be part of it
Yep. Yep.
anyways,
If we're meant to be.
right? So if you're
Right.
not
Yep.
feeling too attached, yeah. So if you're not feeling too attached towards fighting for anything or fighting against anything, then it just means that it's not your fight, and it's okay. And you don't have to feel emotionally
Right.
involved, because for the other people, there's something for them to learn. There is a goal there, a lesson, something really
Yes.
beautiful. So we don't have to be suffering with them.
Right.
We can just hold the space for them
Yes.
to release everything that they need to release. And that's it. We don't need to be, because as starseeds, light workers, we tend to feel like everyone else's emotions so
Yeah.
heavy that we tend to feel like this is mine, right? And then I'm crying for this other country. And of course, you know, it's a sad story if something like that happens. However, it happens because there is such a beautiful release that can happen if we're letting it
Right.
play out. Sometimes it's not even the best if we're getting involved
Right.
too much,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
And it's so for anybody listening, if you're finding yourself feeling almost kind of apathetic, I would say it's less apathy and more neutrality, more like you're like Eartha said, you've shifted into a more
Mm,
observational role of this old energy playing out. You don't have to be part of it anymore.
yeah.
So, and we can wish these souls,
Right.
and you know, if it's, and we
Yeah.
have to remember too that a lot of these things are providing gateways for those souls who need to leave, who just can't be here anymore. That's
Right.
important
Yeah.
too, as sad as it is, right? It's very important that these things happen for that reason. So if you've got a lot of souls in one area who are like, well, I don't want to be here much longer, then something's going to happen, right? That will help them go across, and
Yeah.
the rest of us, you know, are devastated by it. But if you're not feeling that devastation anymore, then that's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. It's not that you know, it's not that you're an uncaring person. It's just that you see the bigger picture. So that's a really good thing. So let's, Eartha, I don't know if because we haven't actually really talked about this, but it's 11 after for me. We were talking about, I
Okay.
have a little journey that I'm going to walk everybody through. And then we were thinking we would end with a beautiful light language if you're game. And then we'll just go ahead and end
Yeah.
it. Like as soon as you're done, we can let
Then we'll
everybody
end.
just kind of
Okay.
sit in
Cool.
that
That
energy
works.
for a while. So what we're going to focus on for this is connecting. I've got a journey to walk everybody through, really simple, really easy, to connect, like the title of this insinuates, to connect clearer with your higher self, to provide kind of a space. What I'm doing is providing a space for you to go to if you feel like you're having trouble connecting to your higher self. And so this will bring that through.
Perfect.
And then you know, there was something else I was going to say about it. I can't remember, but it'll come if it needs to come. And then this will be on YouTube. If you're watching this on a replay on Clubhouse, find this on our YouTube channel, Divine Feminine Ascension Council, and I will have the entire video and then just the journey with the light language as well. So yeah. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. So you might want to have a paper and pencil, because we're going to be having a conversation with our higher self, and the higher self is going to respond. And so if you feel like you might not remember, or if you're worried at all that you might not remember what the responses are, have a paper and pencil ready. So that's what I wanted to say. So if you guys are ready, John, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we dive into this journey, or anybody? Does anybody want to add anything?
Is John
He
going to
sure
do a light
could.
language too?
I'd love that.
Hello.
Anything to,
Hello. Are
we're
we
gonna
losing him?
dive
Are
into.
you
Oh,
really
really? We're
broken
going
up?
to dive into the journey. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have any final thoughts. And we were wondering if you would do a love language. Oh, I love you, John. If you would do a light language as well.
Maybe he can lead us in, because his is so dark and,
It is.
big and powerful. Like if he's still with us,
I love
maybe he
that.
leads us into the
I
light,
love
into
that. How do
the
you feel about that, John?
journey.
Cool. And then
Yeah,
I
for
guess
sure.
I'll just know
Yeah,
when
for
you're
sure.
done.
My
Okay,
connection
good.
went a bit wonky, but I'm back now.
Yeah, so we're ready
Cool.
whenever you are if you want to lead us in. So I guess
Okay.
whenever I sense the long pause, I'll start the journey.
No
Let's do
Okay.
it.
worries. Okay. Umbayında hutumba eteyay awatanda watum hutu huayindai ondo akatindai to atompo hutu ayindai endo koa tako hutu kumbo dia endo kumpa teya to koa tai Kotumba taka puahahuata kunda kuata watuata yendai takuai tukuai tuatindai tukuatindai tia tohayeta tohayeta.
Okay. I'm just going to ask everybody to take 3 deep belly breaths. Fill your lower belly. Hold it for a few seconds and let it out. And just go at your own pace. And we're going to take a little journey. Now that we're in this beautiful, safe space. And we're going to set the intention right now that every energy that comes into this space is in your highest good, is of the highest vibration of light, bringing you pure and divine messages and guidance only. So now that we're in this beautiful void space, I want you to imagine that you're in the middle of a lovely forest. It's beautiful. The light is coming through the trees. You feel very safe and at home here. And you're just walking at a nice slow pace through the forest. And you come to a clearing and you notice there's a giant tree in the middle of this clearing. It's the biggest tree you've ever seen. And it is just welcoming you in. It's like embodying this energy of this parental energy, inviting you in. And so you walk over to the tree, and one of the low branches is low enough and it's stretched across your path that you can sit on it. So you sit on this branch and you're just connecting to this tree. And it's beautiful, beautiful Gaia energy coming through. Gaia has given you this tree to connect to her today. And I want you to notice that there's a child playing in front of you. And I want you to notice that that is representing your ego. And what's going to happen during this encounter is your ego is going to play happily in front of you and be soothed through this whole process. Your ego is not going to be flared. Your ego is not going to be triggered. Your ego is in a very happy space here. And so you're just going to allow that child to play. So just sit here on this branch and I want you to ask for your higher self in this life to come to you in this space. And whatever he, she, they, it looks like is perfect for you. And allow that energy to come to you and know that it is only from the highest vibration of light and that it is a higher version of you. So allow that higher self to come to you and sit next to you on this branch. And just feel into the energy of this being, knowing that it is you without the trauma. It is you without the baggage, without the blocks, without the doubt. And you can talk to this higher self. So I want you to ask, turn to her. I'm just going to say her to make it easier. Turn to her and ask, how can I step into the highest version of myself right now, today? And just allow whatever response to come. And if you want to write it down, write it down. Just allow that answer to come through effortlessly. Don't force it. Your ego is still playing over here in the grass, having a great time, not interfering with any of this. So all the messages coming through are divine and pure for you. And once you have that answer, then ask, what can I do now to express my life purpose? And allow that answer to come through. And write it down if you feel the need. And now you can ask your higher self if he or she has any other messages for you that can help you move forward in your journey. And allow that answer to come through. Don't question it. Don't doubt it. Let it come and write it down. And now your higher self tells you they have a gift for you. And so I want you to hold out your hands and receive that gift, knowing that it is of the highest vibration of light. and it will bring a message, an energy of either an activation or just a physical action that you can do to move forward. So receive that gift now. Let your higher self place it in your hands. And whatever it is perfect. And if it doesn't make any sense, it's okay. Write it down and the message will become clear. And so once you've received that gift, I want you to go ahead and embrace that higher self. Allow he or she or it or them to embrace you and feel that beautiful energy, that freedom, that lightness, that expansiveness of this higher version of you that you are and will step into in this life. And now the higher self is going to leave you there. But you know that that energy is always with you, always accessible. But if you ever feel so encumbered by your external circumstances, you can come back to this clearing, this tree, this branch, to connect with your higher self in a safe space. So while you're sitting in this safe space, we're going to have Eartha bring through some beautiful light language, which I know is going to contain light codes that are really going to activate us for this coming energy.
Indaya sit ayat kanai mate era yaleski sadarit kanai mate karasialara to konoski aterit knibi. Dana ayasaha inidagit karaniskit kanai bay ayaskit ka. Dani kayat kaski at kanani knibaki ayat kanasi elite kris kanai la sandayo se elaisi ayat krisi. Sondai anedo das ke ena mai like it is kanai se sayandai o do konoske kana mata it kana so koro kini ela and I the koso kini mi ela solo that kneski did sayat kana ka ela ka ela koske kana me kila Antoskara ki askri ti itkara.